Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm working on the Western Star today, amongst other things. I've got the right rear wheel hub off that was leaking oil. The wheel hub seal was leaking. These are aluminum hubs, Conmet. Have the Conmet lock nuts, and this is a Tiger Tool socket. They're 3 3/4. Use that to tighten and loosen the nut. These nuts get tightened down to 500 foot-pounds, and that puts the correct preload on the bearings. The spacer goes in between the two bearings, and they're machined to an exact tolerance to just tighten down to that one torque, and that's good. If it's off a little bit for the lock ring there, you just tighten it a little tighter till it lines up, and that's the specifications on those. Another neat thing about these Conmet hubs is when you go to remove the hub, you unscrew the spindle nut and it pushes on this lock ring right here and pushes the hub off. So it's like a puller when you go to take it apart, so you don't damage the hub or the spindles or anything. Kind of a neat setup. So I've got to pull this lock washer out, get the nut and washer out of there, and inspect the outer bearing and race and see what they look like. The inner one looks good. Hopefully the outer one looks good. I've got the axle shaft sitting over here. These are pretty heavy axle shafts. It's a 46,000 pound rear end. I need to order gaskets too. I don't know what size these are, but I think it's like 2 1/4, 2 1/2, probably 2 1/4. Looks like 2 1/4. Really heavy. It's a two hand deal on that one to pick it up. Go out here and look at the truck. Got a mess around here. I've got to do a lot of cleaning. Got my poor old air jack here. Got a bad inner tube in that tire, and this tire I noticed this morning that it's split right there, so I need to get a new tire for that. Probably new tubes and tires for both sides. Here's the shoes. I've got to replace those, so I'm going to do shoes on both sides and drums. And I found the part number on the drums. They're the heavy haul style, full cast. They weigh about 221 pounds a piece. Got the brakes caged there. Need to get this all cleaned up. Found the part number on the shoes, and we'll look those up. I'm not sure if those are the extended, thicker than normal shoes, but they probably are. Look those up and get those ordered. Here's the wheel hub seal over here that was leaking, and I found the part numbers on that, so I'll look that up. And I got the mud flap pulled off over here for room. I have the axles chained up. When I started lifting it up, I noticed it looked like the airbags were getting pretty tight. And some of these trucks, the shocks have more travel than what the airbags can handle, and so it's better just to chain the axle up so you don't rip the airbags apart or damage them. What else do I got going on? Oh, something they did, I don't know what happened here, but probably when the fifth wheel was all the way forward, they dropped something on here, a trailer or something, had something sticking down, and bent that. So I think what I'm going to do is grind this weld up, grind these here, and I have some really heavy flat bar. I'll probably lay it on top of this. But I'll take these bolts out and have this all cleaned up, heat this up really hot, lay the flat bar on there, clamp it, and pull that up. and then tack it on the bottom when I get it pulled up tight, and let it cool, and then get the flat bar out of the way, and then weld it up nice again. The other side, the same thing happened, but not as bad. It's pushed down, but not as bad. So I'll do the same thing on that side, on this side. Grind these out, pull it up into place. It's just a reinforcement bar, I think, for the fifth wheel. So just more looks for me. Just picky about things, so I want it to look right. We'll get that fixed. The other thing I noticed was they cut these slides for some reason right here, from here to here on both sides. Guessing one of the low boys, these are low boy ramps, I'm guessing one of the low boys they pulled had something that didn't clear here when it was sitting down, hanging on the truck, or maybe it was getting stuck or something. So anyways, I'm gonna grind this all down, blend it in, make it look nice, and then touch it up with paint. Do it on both sides, there and there. I'm also going to be putting a big heavy duty pintle hitch on the back of this, so I'm going to get a big heavy plate to go in the back of this and put a big heavy pintle hitch on the rear of it. And I want to be able to tow with a pintle hitch if I need to. There are some shipping container dollies out there you can move shipping containers with that have like a pintle hitch set up on it, and I would like to be able to move shipping containers once in a while. It's a military setup, and so I want to be able to do that. And then every once in a while, you might need to tow something or get towed out if you're stuck, towed from the rear, and there's not really anything good to hook on the back of a tractor. These are not really the heavy enough to be towing on, and so probably do something with that. I'll show you something else up here. I'm trying to decide, and maybe you guys could give me an idea. I'm going to be putting a wet kit on this hydraulic system, and I'm trying to decide what I'm doing for hydraulic tanks. There's a hydraulic tank that Rears makes. It like matches this diameter, saddle style tank, 50 gallons. It would go right here. I would just have to relocate these, the air dryer, and this is the cooler for the auxiliary transmission. And so I think I can move this right up here. I think it'll fit right inside the cab guard, and just drill a couple holes in that and mount that there and lengthen the hoses. I need to do something with this. It's really rusty, and I was just going to replace it, and I checked with Western Star, and it's $1,800 for just the cooler. So I think what I might do is just get some rust converter from POR 15 and pressure wash it off, put the rust converter on it, and then coat the ends of this with POR 15. I haven't even looked at the bottom of it right here. I need to look at that first too and see what it looks like on the bottom. Not coat the fins or anything, but just the end of it. I want to stop the rust. Don't want it to develop a leak. So we'll see. We'll see what that cleans up like. The air dryer, I thought about moving it up. I mean, it's right here. It wouldn't be so bad if it was right here. The cooler would be here. That would be here. That might be okay. I would just need to get some channel this size, this longer. I could reuse these bolt holes, these bolts in the frame, and put a bracket here, move it up, and then I would just have to lengthen the electrical, lengthen the air lines. I think there's one up here, yeah. And then the tank would go here. Another reason I'm leaning towards the saddle tank over the tank in the middle is the rear's tank has 1.5-inch ports, which is what you really should have for the flow of the hydraulic pump I'm going to be using. The tank that would go in the middle Try to remember the brand name. I can't think of the name of it, but it's got 1.25" ports, and they go straight down. It'd be better if they were 1.5" and they faced forward. That'd be easy to run lines up to the transmission, but they point straight down. And looking at the pictures of the tank, the welds look like really crappy, and I just was worried. As like looking at it, I was like, man, this thing's going to start leaking after a while from the looks of the welds. Plus they're 1.25" ports. I was like, well, I could take it into a shop and have them put 1.5" ports in the bottom front and just put plugs in the bottom ports, and I could have them grind down the welds and re-weld it in a nice fashion so they look really nice, and then we know that, and then pressure test it and know it's not going to leak. Or I could just have a tank built by somebody that does a nice aluminum work in the area, and I can do it myself. I sold my TIG welder, and so I don't have the equipment to do it right now. So anyways, the other thing is this: to put the tank here, this bar would have to be cut out, and there's a plate that's mounted to the bottom of the tank, and it would go underneath the cab guard. So not a big deal. Just, I think the saddle tank with the right ports and the ease of access of getting the hoses. So the hoses have to go up to the underneath side of the transmission. The PTO and pump mount on the bottom left of the manual transmission. So it's a ways up there. And then trying to come out the bottom of the tank, if I did it here, and getting through all those air lines would be a challenge. Let's just look at that line right there. It looks like it's just grease, I think. Maybe it's paint. I thought it was chewed up for a second. I would have to move the tanks back probably to get clearance, and where these other bungs are in the tank, I could only move it a little bit here unless I went clear to the other side, which would be moving it quite a bit back further. Then you got the bungs up here in the way of these brackets, so these brackets would have to go on this side of the tanks. And is there enough length in the lines? Probably end up having to lengthen the lines. Some of them would work, there's enough room they would curve around. Some of them, this one maybe would just have to undo the bracket and let the line come outside the bracket. So I don't know. What do you guys think? These lines up here probably would have to be rerouted a little bit. This is a short line that goes from here to here. That would have to maybe be fittings changed so that this would come out this side and make a loop this way. This one might work okay. That would maybe have to be a 90 instead of a 45. And then that brings me to the carrier bearing that I still have to replace. So I've got to get going on that and get that pulled out. So move this up. The other option with this, so what do I got? I got the in and out lines and that line there, and then the electric line. I could move this. I could relocate this back further, which might make it look cleaner. I don't know if it would be. I want this thing to look really nice when it's done. So I don't even like the idea of this being up here really, but I had thought about putting some other toolboxes on both sides of this right here. I don't want to block the airflow for this though. So if I mount that there, I don't want to block the airflow. So let's look at moving the air dryer back to another spot. So it could go right here inside the frame. I'd have to make some brackets, and I could mount it to. I could mount it to these. 2 bolts are there, and use these 2, or just these 3 would maybe be enough. Probably if I made it heavy enough brackets. So that'd be some fabrication, and then extending the lines and the electrical. So that'd be the cleaner looking area. I'm also going to replace that toolbox. The first thing I need to do is I need to get the fenders for these, for the pusher axle. And it had fenders, it looks like, at one time already. So I think this is the mounting holes for the fenders for the pusher. So I was going to do single stainless fenders for that. I should get those and get those on there so I can see exactly where these brackets are. And go from there. But I think maybe relocate the air dryer there. I could relocate it up there just temporarily and just get it up out of the way. But that's kind of double doing work. So I don't know. I think right there is the best spot. And then my plan is to put stainless steel 1-piece fenders on the rear of this. And get rid of these and just do fenders that cover the whole, both axles. So we'll see how that goes. And then this is kind of cool. This has a auxiliary power unit APU for the sleeper, and it's got a diesel generator in there. I need to look up the hours, see if there's anything wrote down anywhere on when it was serviced, see if there's a hour meter anywhere on it, and service it. They also make a really nice stainless steel enclosure, polished stainless steel enclosure that I'd like to put on too, but we'll see down the road. The other thing that comes to mind is the doing a deck plate. So I probably put the toolbox, if I do the saddle mount, I'll probably put the toolbox back there and then do a new deck plate. And I think I would replace this because I'm going to need a spot to mount the hydraulic lines, and they make a pretty nice aluminum box to have the air lines and hydraulic lines and everything come into. And this thing's been hit several times, it looks like. It should probably be further forward a few inches, so maybe right here, and do the enclosed box for those, for the lines. And then a deck plate. I could have 2 deck plates, one that went from here to the box, and then they have like clamps that clamp under, so you could undo the clamps to access the air dryer and just take off the small deck plate here, and then have a bigger deck plate up in the front. And then I need to get to work on the frame. I want to get all this cleaned up, wire brushed, get all the flake and paint off of it, and start touching it up with some Eastwood, I think etching primer or rust encapsulator primer. and or maybe just rust encapsulator paint that Eastwood makes. So I'll probably just do a semi-gloss, just kind of wire brush everything. The other thing is I'm planning on doing, maybe I already talked about it, was doing a pintle hitch on the back of this. I'll be repeating myself. And then this toolbox might not clear, pretty sure it won't clear, fenders. So this might have to go. And I'd have to put another step somewhere, because that's the only step to get up on there, really. Need a ladder somewhere. So lots of things to think about. But I need to get back to work. I need to get that carrier bearing pulled out up here. And I need to find some parts. This carrier bearing's bad, so I gotta pull those bolts and drop that drive line out of the way and pull this yoke and drop this down, see if I can get the carrier bearing to slide off the end of the drive line. That might be fun. Lots of stuff in the way. It's not going to be fun. That's not going to be fun. Let's see, how short is that drive line? So if I could pull this whole carrier bearing out with this drive line, because it goes right to the auxiliary transmission right there. So I could use a couple chain come-alongs and support at both ends, because that drive line I'm sure is really heavy. I don't think I'm manhandling that out of there. Oh, and there's a cross member in the way down there too. But anyways, I could drop it down, swing it forward, drop it down, swing it forward, and drag it out from underneath. But I'm going to try to get the carrier bearing off first with it in the truck. So, get these bolts out, get this drive line up here out of the way, and get the yoke off, and then see if I can get the carrier bearing to slide off the drive shaft. We'll see how that goes. And I'll keep you updated. So if you guys have any suggestions for me on the hydraulic tanks, or the air dryer, or the auxiliary transmission cooler, let me know. I better get back to work. I got a million things to do. Bye now.